So, Dad, you were talking about how Mom was so assertive, and you referred to her as the lioness. And you were sharing a story about all of you, how she requested something for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was, you know, her love and her affection and her concern was showing. She is suffering with cancer, and yet she was worried about me lying on that window. It's really a window sill
Mm-hmm.
with this glass, and I was not that I'm very tall, but I was crouched in a fetal position. And she kept asking me, she said, "Sweetie, are you okay? Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm okay." That was her concern. But another funny incident happened. I laughed, and both of us laughed after that, both mom and I, because she was all, tubed up or tubed in. And I told her, I said, don't use the restroom at night without the help of the nurse or wake me up. And I believe she called the nurse, sometimes nurses are off to sleep. And then she saw me, I thought, utilizing my height, because I put three chairs alongside each other to make it a long, quote unquote, bed. And I got in, sat down, I pushed my feet, my legs through the first chair, through the arms, the second one, the third one. Now, to get up, it needed some kind of gymnastics. You needed to really come out very carefully, because if you pushed one chair, then you know where you're going to fall on, right? Now she kept calling me. She wanted to go to the restroom, and she raised her voice. I was in deep sleep, and then she got up, and she was with all the that thing with wheels. She was wheeling it to the restroom. I got up, and she was struggling, and she said, "Sweetu," I got up. I said, one minute. She said, "By the time you get up, sweetheart, it would be Christmas, Easter, New Year." And I got up and I got hurt. And then I said, "I'm so sorry, darling. I'm so sorry." And she was angry with me. That anger was mainly because she was wanting to use the restroom and she was not able to. So I took her and then came back. I kept saying, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Now you see the moment of truth where her love sort of just exploded. And she started crying. She said, "I've been so rude to you, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." I said, "You've already been rude, so what happened?" I said, "You've got to take those nails that you hammered into my heart. You need to take it." And this was a very tender moment. She said, "Come, I want to just give you a kiss on your forehead." And that was showing me, even in the midst of cancer, she was justified. She was wanting, poor girl, she was wanting to wake me up. Then we said, "Next time you want to wake me up, Mama, take that pillow, fling it at me." So sometimes jokingly she didn't have to go to the bathroom. She would fling it and I would get up. And then I would say, "Shall I get it?" She said, "No, you relax. I just wanted to see what is your reaction to it."
Yeah.
These were moments, and I always say this to people whom I talk to. You have a spouse, husband or a wife. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's not if, it's when that happens. Build memories. Don't think that whatever you messed up in the past, right now, if you're listening, take heart. I remember for mom's memorial service, some of the pastors who were there, After the service, they went outside. They were calling their wives because I said, tell your spouse, I love you. For far too long, we've left that. Okay? And they were calling their spouses. I said, hey, I love you. That's what we need to be doing today. Right? So, you want to jump into that time when mom was with a walker outside in our backyard. You and I, the faithfuls, we about putting up that hope in God. Remember that time? Just,
Yeah, so during the time when mom was in and out of the hospital, dad wanted to put up a saying, I hope in God. Tell us about how that evolved and how you added to that even after mom's passing.
Those days, I don't think we knew how to smile. We lost our smile. I'll speak for myself. I had a very heavy heart. I would read the Bible. It didn't mean anything to me. As I said, we talked, I was angry. Why do I need to talk to a God who's done this to us, to our family at that time? But one morning I was reading, and this was the Lord speaking to my heart. It was from Psalm 42, verse 5, I believe. It says, why are you cast down, O my soul? Why are you disquieted within me? Hope in God, for I shall yet praise Him. This was a thing of anguish. In fact, as the psalmist David was talking to his own soul, the Lord brought it to my heart where I'm talking to my soul. Hey, Gabriel, Rufus, why are you so cast down? At one time you trusted God. You think God has deserted you? I said, yeah. You have deserted us. I'm angry. I'm disappointed. I'm frustrated. But I shared that verse with mom. Hope in God. And she said, Mama, why don't you put that up on top of the jacuzzi? Then I went and got the letters, HOPE, etc. And then I said, hey Mike, why don't we fix it? Mom was standing there, and then you went up, and I think you and I, we need to learn a lot of geometry. We need to learn a lot of balancing and straight lines, etc. So we took the ladder, and Mom was there, and she had a smirk on her face. And she said, are you leaving it just as the wooden piece? Aren't you going to paint it? I said, yeah, I'm going to paint it. She said, why don't you paint it and then put it up?
Yeah.
Oh, I said, that's a good idea. She said, once you put it up, it's more difficult. Then she said she did this. All the college education, all the marketing management and university. No use. Common sense. Yeah, Ma. And then we put that up. Hope in God. Because that was a reminder to us. And if I may, with your permission, the neighbor asked the question, hey, Gabe, what does that mean? Then I told her. Mom was still in and out of the hospital. And then when Mom passed, a gentleman from the church, in fact, coincidentally, I got in touch with him just last Sunday. He said, brother, would you come and pray for my dad? He's got cancer. Immediately there was this kind of a evil voice. You hypocrite? You want to go and give someone hope? When you prayed, and you prayed for your wife's healing, and she's passed on, what is the message you're going to give them? False hope? I was disturbed. But then I said, let me go. God has a sense of humor. He took me through, the 118 and where Olive View is, where we used to go. I said, Lord, why are you bringing me again to the same route? But this gentleman's home was close by, and I walked in, and the family was there, and the father was there. He's almost on his deathbed, dying. And I think first thing I said, I've not come here to give you any hope for a healing, but I'm going to give you a hope, the healing of your soul and your relationship with Christ. But I pray because the Lord says, ask, pray for healing. That's His will, but it's also His will too, for you to have a better relationship, acknowledge Him. And I believe that gentleman did.
Yeah.
So that was the hope that I passed on to them. And every time I sat in the backyard trying to have my Bible study, I said, you know what? This is not going to end. So I prayed and asked God. I got a word which says, go get the letters which will say, I still hope in God. And that's the one that's there now. Then our neighbor said, hey Gabe, what's that? So I gave her the testimony, because I still hope. Today, our hope is in God.
Yeah.
Yes, we had a story of dismal story, a break journey. Things happened, bitter, but no, things have changed. Miss mom, of course we miss mom.